the division of labor for an organized family. Okay, first I want to start off with the definition of division of labor. And let's start with this definition here. The division of labor refers to the allocation of tasks to individuals or organizations according to the skills and or equipment those people or organizations possess. Okay, and also let's talk about this one as well, and then I'll put these two together. Here it says the division of labor is the separation of tasks in any economic system or organization so that participants may specialize. Now, the reason I want to talk about both of those definitions is because both of those definitions give some information as to what the division of labor refers to overall. Here, but in plain English, basically what the division of labor refers to is different people can focus on doing different things, and because they focus on different things, they are able to specialize and build expertise and become very good at what they're doing. Okay, next we want to talk about what do we gain? What does a family gain? What does an organized family gain by operating and implementing and operating with a division of labor? And first I want to just scroll down and see here. What are the three advantages of division of labor? And I'll read this. First, the division of labor increases the dexterity of each worker as he specializes in a single operation. That means this person gets good at something that he's able to focus on, he or she is able to focus on. Secondly, it saves time that is otherwise lost in changing from one task to another. Okay, that means since you can focus on one thing, you don't have to waste a lot of time by trying to learn two and three other things or do two or three other things. You can focus on this one task and you can get great at this one task and you can do it very well. Okay. Now, why is that important to us? If I go here, not here yet. Yeah, here. What do we gain? Like what will a family gain by implementing a division of labor? And what I put here for what we gain, I put number one, save time, energy, bandwidth, and money. Number two, achieve better results when expertise is gained by specialization. So this is basically repeating some of the things that I've already read. But the point is, we are looking to implement a division of labor because we think there are benefits for the family when a division of labor is implemented. So what will a division of labor look like in a practical sense? So in order to explain this idea, I created this spreadsheet, and I'm going to go through this spreadsheet. Don't allow yourself to be confused by anything that you see on this spreadsheet because the idea is simple. The idea is simple based on what I already talked about. A division of labor is simply allowing different people to specialize and focus on doing different things in the family because they have the skills and the ability to do so. And because we let people focus on doing those things, other people don't have to focus on those things. That is the big idea. So I'm going to go through this spreadsheet in order to elaborate on that, but don't allow anything you see on this spreadsheet to confuse you. If you're feeling yourself getting confused, just refer to the basic purpose of a division of labor is simply to split up tasks so that no one has to do everything, and then the people who do focus on doing a particular task can do it well. Okay, so in order to explain this, I'm going to break it down into two scenarios. Scenario A is operating as individuals. Scenario A, operating as individuals, and Scenario B, operating as an organized family that has been broken down into teams. So first, let's start with Scenario A, operating as individuals. So the first thing I'll do is basically explain this table that you see here. The first thing we have to the left here are a bunch of tasks that an individual will need to complete. Across the top, so cook, clean, these are things, cook, clean, laundry, yard work, whatever the case may be. If you have children, math homework, science homework, etc. These are examples of tasks that an individual will need to complete. And then across the top here, we got individual A, B, C, D, and E, just as example individuals who will have to complete these tasks. Now, if a person is operating as an individual, then clearly this person, for every task that needs to be completed, this person will have to do these tasks for themselves, right? So individual A, if individual A needs to cook, then the person who will be cooking for individual A will be individual A, him or herself. If there needs to be cleaning done for individual A will be doing the cleaning for him or herself, so on and so forth. So all of the tasks that need to be completed by a person who is operating as an individual will have to be completed by that individual. That's why you see the same thing for individual B. All of these tasks that need to be completed for individual B, then individual B is the person who is completing those tasks for himself. Same thing with C, D, and E, so on and so forth. So the point here is that when an individual is operating like an individual, they have to do everything on their own. They have to be a jack of all trades. They have to basically do things for themselves all the time. Now, because this person has to do everything for themselves, you can imagine how tired this person may be. They've already worked a full day at work. Now they have to come home and cook. Now they have to clean. Now they have to do laundry, so on and so forth. So this is something that will really wear a person down if they don't have any help. So operating as an individual, having to do all of these things for yourself will take a toll on a person. Okay, now let's take a look at scenario B. Operating as an organized family broken down into teams. So specifically, we say family members are assigned to teams that specialize in tasks. So right here in this definition, these are the same tasks. Just to explain this table, these are the same tasks that an individual would have to complete. And across the top, we have family members. So since now these people are part of an organized families, they're no longer individuals. They are members of an organized family, and we have one member up to 100 members. So long story short, when you have this family that consists of 100 members, this family can now be broken down into teams of people who do different tasks, right? So as you can see here, team 1 does the cooking for every member of the family. Team 2 does the cleaning for every member of the family. Team number 3 does the laundry for every member of the family. And one important thing to say here, I said teams can have one or many members depending on the task. Some tasks may be so simple that the only person who needs to do it is one person. Some tasks can be a little bit more complex or require a little bit more manpower. So in a family of 100, you may need 4 or 5 people on a team. So maybe the cook team consists of 5 or 6 people who are doing all of the cooking, right? Or 3 or 4 people who are doing all of the cleaning. These details can be worked out by the individual families, but the point is a team, depending on the task at hand, can have one person on that team, or there can be many people on that team. But the point is, when you are a part of an organized family, you don't have to do all of these things for yourself and by yourself. Like I said, each one of these members, member 1 up to member 100, all of the cooking is done by team number 1. Each one of these members, member 1 from up to 100, all of the cleaning is done by team number 2. So the point is, and when you have a family that's operating like that, the advantage is I, as an individual, don't have to spend the time, energy, and bandwidth and other whatever resources that it requires to do all of these things for myself. Okay, let's finish up and talk about some of the final points. Okay, before I move on, what I like to point out is refer back to this family capital inventory that I created and talked about on a previous video. As you can see here, we have already collected the inventory of intellectual capital for the family. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about here, you can go back and watch the video that I made on intellectual capital. But long story short, we already know that we have a list of family members. We know that each one of these family members has a certain occupation, they have a certain education, a certain degree area in which they've received an education, and these people will have certain knowledge, skills, and ability. Now, when you're thinking within the context of a division of labor in a family, you would need to take these things into consideration. You can easily look on this list and see who has learned what, who is good at what, who has experience at doing what. And this is something that you can take into consideration as your family is building the teams to get certain tasks done. So this inventory that we done will come into play in many other places, This is why it is one of the most important things to do from the very beginning. Take inventory of your financial capital, inventory of your intellectual capital, and inventory of your social capital, because then we will go back and use these things in various ways. Okay, let's wrap up the video by talking about a few final points. The first point, point 0 I have here, is it prevents tasks from going half done or undone. What that means is when an individual has to do all of these things for themselves, they may be so tired, they don't have a lot of time, they don't have a lot of energy. Oftentimes things get half done, or sometimes things get undone. Important things that should be done get undone because this individual don't have the time to do it, doesn't have the time to do it, doesn't have the energy to do it. Moving on to number 1 here, a couple isn't much better than an individual. So up here in this scenario A, I was talking about an individual, but let's say for instance a person is married or has a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they are a couple instead of an individual. Well, that's still not going to be much better. I mean, it will be better to some extent because now you have at least one person to help you with these tasks, but it doesn't come anywhere close to being as effective as it could be if you have a group of many family members working together to get these things done. Okay, point number 2 here, some individuals pay for outsourced help, but that money can be put to use by organized families. Like I say, yeah, so even if an individual is up here, if a person, has a job that pays them well enough, they can sometimes outsource things. You can pay for a cook, you can pay somebody to come do your cleaning, so on and so forth. So that would help an individual, but what I put here is when you're operating in a family that works together, that money that would be used to pay, you still could outsource some of these things. The family may still say, hey, we want to outsource some of these things in order to save our time anyway. And that is an option, but it's not 100% necessary. And because the family can split these tasks up by team members, and then the money that is saved can be put to better use by this family. Number 3, if family members are scattered throughout the country, we have to modify the plan as needed. What that basically means is it's easy when you have people who are operating as a unit in the same demographic, in the same location, right? In the same general location. It's easier to do coordination and cooperation. But the coordination and cooperation is not impossible just because people are scattered out over the country. You may have some family members up north, you may have some up down south, you may have some out west. That will change the mix of things that the family can collaborate on and change the way in which the family will collaborate, but it does not prevent the family from having collaboration. So we know that if people are scattered out over the country, we need to put some thought into how we can work together. Number 4, I put teams can turn into family service jobs or family businesses. Very briefly, what I mean by that is we may have some unemployed family members, and if the family is operating as a unit and working together, we can basically create some jobs for some family members. Somebody in the family can be a cook. And if that person has been previously unemployed, we can say, okay, we're going to allocate a certain amount of money for you to go learn how to be a cook, go to culinary school, whatever the case may be. And once you finish that schooling, you can come back and work for the family. You can be the family's cook. And if the family is large enough and operating as a unit, this is a very feasible thing to do. The second part of that is it could turn into a business. If we have a team of people, I'm just using the cooking example, I'm just going to run with that. If we have a team of people in the family who are already cooking a large quantity of food for the family as a whole, because they're cooking for 100 family members, well, this is 100 adult family members, and then there will be children. They could very well be already cooking for hundreds of people. And if they're already cooking for hundreds of people, it is not very much of a stretch for that to turn into a business where we are now cooking for the general public, meaning forming a restaurant business or something similar. So when the family comes together to do this division of labor and people are focused on certain tasks, these people will be building skills that may allow them to form businesses that will allow us to offer products and services to the general public at large. So this can turn into that. And lastly, number 5 here, it generally allows us to move on to bigger and better things by not being bogged down with the 1 million things to do. Long story short, like I say, it's not just time and energy that is taken up when people have to focus on doing all of these things. It also takes up your bandwidth, your mental capacity, time and mental energy that you could be used thinking about things that are bigger ideas that are more worth our time. We also lose the ability to do that when we are knee deep in the day-to-day activities. So if we're able to free up some of our time, because I don't have to worry about cooking because somebody else in the family is doing it. I don't have to worry about cleaning because somebody else in the family is doing it. I don't have to worry about helping my kid with math homework because the people in the family who have math skills are the ones helping the kids in the family with math homework. When I don't have to do all of these things, then my time is freed up to think about other things that may be beneficial for me to be thinking about. So these are some of the advantages that go along with having an organized family and having a division of labor that is implemented within that organized family. All right.